Good evening, my little nightmares, and welcome back to my channel. If you are a new viewer, I'm really glad you lost your way and you ended up here with me. Today I'm gonna show you how I made this miniature Liber Mortis. The most correct translation of Liber Mortis from Latin would be the Book of Death.
But in different books, stories, video games, movies, we can find a little bit of a difference like between the names and meaning of actually this book. Obviously it's fictional, so everyone can make their own story about this book, but it was actually inspired from the real book of the Egyptian Book of the Dead. The Egyptian Book of the Dead dates around 7th century before BC. It's actually a collection of texts. They used to be written for a deceased person, and that collection of texts used to be placed in their burial chamber or the coffin, and was believed that the prayers and the text would help the person, the deceased, to pass through the underworld towards his afterlife. Only the very rich Egyptians were able to afford to pay for such a book.
So let's stop talking so much and get to work. So I'm gonna start by showing you everything that I'm gonna be using for this project. Here I have the paper, 120 grams, is cut in the size that I need, which is 3.5 centimeters by 5. I've got some leather, I've got an eye detail, which I'm gonna be using for to decorate the cover, and some thread. Make sure you use a really good one so then it doesn't break when you sew the pages together. I'm gonna start sewing. This is a very simple technique, so literally anyone can do it. The first few pages are a bit harder to attach, so if you're gonna try and do this yourself, just be very patient with the first few pages. It gets a little bit easier after that. I have made some books before, but they were purely as decoration for a dollhouse, and all the pages were glued together. This book I wanted to be fully functional, so all the pages need to nicely flip, so you can look through it and write as well. So you can see here, like the sewing method just gives us full function of the book, really. Here I'm almost done with the sewing. As you can see, the spine of the book is really tidy and nice, just as a real book. In the end, simply make a knot. Now, if you don't want the black thread to be visible between the pages, you can always use a different color. Moving on to cutting some color paper for the front and back cover, which then after will be covered as well in leather. Make sure you measure all the time before gluing on, just to make sure you've got it right. I'm using a lighter to burn the edges of the book. I do really like the distressed, worn out look of literally everything. So to age this book, I'm just using a lighter, so fire. Be very careful when doing this, because it's really easy to overburn the pages or to get burnt yourself, so be very careful when playing with fire, as we all should know by now. Also, you can, if you don't want to burn, you can either stain the paper with tea or with acrylic paints. I'm drawing a pattern of the size that the cover is, and then leaving some extra just to make sure I've got enough. Measure again. Using some PVA glue to stick the cover paper to the book. Everything looks nice, and I'm using some PVA to secure the base of the spine, and then I put a piece of tissue actually as well on top of that PVA, and then I'm applying now the hot glue to secure the book onto the leather. And here I'm using as well PVA glue to attach the paper onto the leather. I did, on the other side, I did actually put a few drops of super glue because I wasn't sure if the PVA glue is going to hold very well, but it actually did. Trimming the extra. I did not want to fold the edges of the leather inside because the leather is way too thick to look neat for such a small book. So I'm just trimming the sides a little bit larger than the paper, so maybe like 1-2 millimeters larger, just so it has that extra edge, so you don't just have the leather finishing exactly where the paper is. Moving on to the eye, I'm using some super glue to attach a strap of leather to create the eyelids for the eye. Cut the extra off. Be very careful when using super glue on leather or fabrics. It does harden very quickly, it's very messy, and it can destroy your project. And also it does release a toxic fume, so do not let your children do this project by themselves. It's definitely not something for children. And if you're an adult as well, make sure you protect your breathing from the super glue fumes. They are very toxic indeed. So once you're happy with the positioning, put some glue, stick it on. Looking very good at this point. I'm really happy with it. Here I've attached a strap of leather to the middle of the end cover, the back part of the cover, so the back of the book, and I'm just putting some rings, some metal gold rings onto it, just creating a little bit of a detail. I did not have a buckle for such a small project, so I've just decided to add some metal rings to it just to make it a little bit more detailed. Here I'm gluing on as well with super glue a little ring from the leather so I can put the strap through and kind of close the book. It goes in a little bit harder just because the strap is very soft, obviously because of the leather, but with a little bit of effort we're getting there. That looks really cute at this moment. I was so happy with it. On the last page, I've decided to add a gold foil, just a detail, just a nice detail, you know. I love to do my projects over detailed, and this book was looking a little bit too boring at that point. So here using some gold acrylic color to create some patterns on the book. If you are using gold paint into your projects, make sure you are buying a more quality one, so a better quality paint. A tube will like always last you forever, so it's definitely worth paying a little bit more for one. The really cheap gold paints are really horrible, so I use Alove. I've got this paint I'm using, which I'm gonna put the name of it in the description, and I also have a gold wax, which is absolutely awesome, which I'm gonna put the description of the details of it, how it's called and everything in the description box as well. Here I've applied some mixture of epoxy glue with resin dye and created some blood for the eye. I also made the writing Liber Mortis, and I've added some of the blood on top of the Mortis word as well. Here working on the spine as well, using the same gold acrylic, creating some writing, some more details. I do love a very detailed spine on the book. I think that's the most important part, because when they are in the library, you can always just see the spine of the book. You don't see the front or the back, so I think that's a really important detail. I do really love a very over the top, complicated, detailed spine. That looks awesome at this point. I was just so over the moon happy with it. And here we go. The whole thing is finished. I hope you really enjoyed watching this. If you have any more questions, you can always ask. I'm happy to help and advise. Gonna open up some blood stain obviously there, and the pages just turn absolutely perfectly. Very functional, created by Aldraco 2021. I was really happy with this project, to be honest. I absolutely love it, and this is the start of a little series. I'm actually going to make a few more on some very interesting themes inspired by really cool things. And this book also is for sale, so if you're interested, you can just message me on Instagram or just leave a comment and I'll get back to you. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and consider to subscribe. Also leave a comment. Let's communicate a little bit more.
And if you are going to follow this video to make your own Book of the Dead, or any tips, anything that you found helpful in this video, if you're going to use it, please share some pictures with me. Share your thoughts on, how your experience making your own version of this little book went. And you can find me on Instagram at Aldraco. You're very welcome to send me there any sort of text. I'm very willing to help you if you have any more questions on any tools or anything else that I use. Thank you so much, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye! So...